Hi, my name is Lila and I'm the Mini Witch. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This week's video is the best technique you've never heard of, and how it can make you a better and faster painter. The technique we're going over this week is called stippling. Stippling is the action of loading paint onto a brush and quickly dabbing that paint onto your miniature repeatedly. No, absolutely not. Don't do that either. Hey. Stippling is useful because you can cover areas quite quickly, specifically larger areas, and it's a great yet simple way to blend colors, including highlights and shadows, as well as color gradations. You can do stippling with a stippling brush or an older round brush. I prefer using a true stippling brush as it allows me to cover more ground faster. Due to the stippling brush's design, it can hold a lot more paint than other, more common brush types. However, you can also use a dry brush if you're not as concerned about the amount of paint your brush can hold, or an older round brush if you want more precision in smaller areas. I own two stippling brushes. My larger stippling brush is just a random one from Michaels, but the smaller one that I'm going to be using in this video this week is from Sonia Kashuk, which is a makeup brand from Target, and this is the Detailed Smudging Brush, and it was $5. I chose this brush because of how it tapers at the end, which is going to allow me to cover smaller areas. Today I'm painting Sigmar of Nurgle, Lord of Plagues. I begin by loading paint onto my palette. I recommend using a dry palette, unlike what you see me doing here. A wet palette hydrates your paint, and we want this paint to be as thick as possible for this technique. I'm starting on the skin and I'm mixing all of the colors that I will need together. I'm creating 3 colors: a shadow, midtone, and highlight.
Cardamom is so fascinated by me mixing paint. Honey, what are you trying to do?
I then dip my brush into my paint. I'm starting with the shadows, and press it into my paper towel with a decent amount of pressure 2 times. We definitely want there still to be paint on this. This is not like dry brushing where you want to remove the majority of your paint. And then, wait, what is cardamom? I'm then quickly stamping my brush onto the areas that will be painted. Push your paint past wherever you think it's going to go. On these rolls of fat, I applied the shadow even at the top, even though I knew I was going to be going over that later with my highlight color. After placing my shadows, I quickly move on to my second color. Here you can see that I didn't do a very good job of blocking in all of my shadows, and it is extremely important that you get everything covered as much as you need to. Unlike with layering, you can't really just go back in if you mess up and go back and touch it up. So try to make sure that you're doing it right before you move on to the next color. The best way to blend colors when working in the layering style is to stamp your freshly loaded brush where you want that color to be, and as you unload your brush, move towards the colors you wish to blend. In smaller areas, apply your paint where you want it, then remove the excess paint from your brush on a paper towel or the back of your hand and stamp your empty brush away from your fresh paint. Then I began to add the highlights. You can tell that I made the difference between my midtone and my highlight too intense, but that was easy enough to fix. I waited for my highlight to dry, then mixed an in-between color of my midtone and highlight and stippled that back over top. And in areas where I needed to, I just applied my highlight color right back over my in-between color. Next, I'm on to the armor. First, I'm going to cover up any areas that I've already painted with blue poster tack. Of course, you can live dangerously and you don't have to do this if you don't want to. This time around, I'm going to be working a lot quicker. On the skin, I waited for each layer to dry, but this time around, I'm going to be doing something more akin to wet blending. This will make the blending and painting a lot faster. I apply my paint quickly and then move on to the next step of my gradation. Like we did with applying dry paint, I'm going to apply my second color where I want it and then stamp towards my shadow. Once the paints begin to mix, I will wipe away the majority of my paint on a paper towel or my hand and then go back and forth up and down the pauldron to blend the colors. I'm then doing the same thing for the rest of the armor. Load my highlight color onto my miniature, clean my brush, load on my shadow, clean brush, then blend the colors together with a clean brush, going back and forth over the highlights and shadows to blend them together. Because I'm a perfectionist, I went back in and glazed in highlights and shadows with my round brush. You absolutely don't have to do this. This is just me being obsessive. Cardamom, do not eat tape. This is not up for debate. As a PS, I prefer using my stippling brush as my dry brush because the round edges of the brush don't leave nearly as obvious of a pattern as the harsh square edges of a flat brush. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful time. I hope that this was useful and helpful to you. Let me know, had you heard of this technique before? Will you be using it in the future? As always, you can support me by joining me on Patreon, on Instagram, or subscribing down below. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.
Hello, little one. Have you come to supervise to make sure that I'm getting my work done on schedule? Well, I'm happy to tell you that I have not even started yet, but here we are. So if you approve, I think I will continue getting ready. You just came for the Oreos. I thought you wanted to be on my lap, but you only came for the Oreos. How rude. Well, I'm sorry, but the Oreos have been taken away. So if you still want to stay, you are welcome, but there will not be Oreos.